Our guest today is King Princess. Her third album, Girl Violence, is out now on Section 1. Thank you so much for joining us today, KP.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so congrats on Girl Violence. It's your first album in 3 years. You moved away from LA, you left your record label, moved back to New York, to the house that you grew up in, the recording studio you grew up in, and you made the record you wanted to make.
Correct.
Yes, thank you. Thanks, I need that validation. So, you missed the chaos of New York, but you also wanted to create something more grounded. How did that process feel more like home, more grounded, more stable?
I think I've always felt more at home like when it's noisy, for me, I think growing up in New York desensitized me to chaos, and then living in LA for 7 years, I remember when I first moved to LA, I couldn't sleep because it was so quiet at night. I can't even imagine here, it must be really quiet. But there's something symphonic about New York and its chaos and its kind of constant movement that makes me feel still, maybe still by comparison. And when I moved back, I immediately, even just walking to the studio from my house to my dad's studio is about 10 blocks, and just walking every day with my dog from my house to the studio, headphones in, kind of just watching the world around me, it was extremely grounding. And it made me feel like I could make a record that felt grounded about chaos, and that's really what the goal was here.
Yeah, and more about that comfort. So your dad runs Mission Studio, where you recorded the album. You grew up around music. Yeah. Your folks were in a metal band together at some point, is that right?
They were in a metal, they met through AA. I got a wife coming to me soon, I guess, from AA. But they met through AA, and then but they were in various bands together. My dad's a drummer, my mom was a singer. But my dad's he's a good drummer, but he's a really good recording engineer. And he's a very classic recording engineer. And I was really fortunate to grow up in a studio that not only housed incredible analog equipment, but sounded really good. And so my standard, I guess, for what I need a room to sound like to record is pretty high.
Yeah. And
luckily, for a semi-discounted rate, I can still use the studio. So that's good.
That's good. So let's go back to the idea of chaos, of girl violence. To me, it seemed like your previous music was kind of a reaction to all the chaos. This kind of felt more like you were addressing it and able to poke fun of it in a way.
Yeah, I think that's a great way of putting it. I think before it was always it was being done to me. Because I feel like every record I've written is a breakup record, and, it is what it is. But with this record, it felt like it was more like there was a mission statement of okay, this is a pattern in my life, but not just my life. I exist in a queer community. I live in Brooklyn. My girls are constantly in peril. They're just, everyone is just being tormented constantly by each other and themselves, tormenting themselves too. And I was like, what is it about us that makes us so horny for sadness as queer people? And so in my kind of pseudo lesbian intellectual way, I created the mission statement of why does nobody mention that girls can be violent? And that became kind of the guiding light of the whole record of why do we cause so much emotional warfare on each other and ourselves? And I think you're right. This record, in order to do that, it has to be funny too, or else it's just sad.
Yeah.
And I don't like to make music that's just sad. I think there always needs to be some levity, because that's the type of media that I like to consume. Media that doesn't fit one box. Is it funny? Is it scary? Is it sad? I like the melting pot of all of it. So yeah, you're dead on with that.
Yeah, and so talking about media representation and this undercurrent of like, there's this girl violence underneath like the aggressive male, like, that's kind of the dominating culture, right? But then there's this undercurrent of girl violence.
Oh yeah, like it's like the basic violence is like ain't nothing. Like, have you been to Brooklyn? Like, have you experienced what lesbians do to each other? That shit is diabolical, girl. Diabolical.
Yeah.
Because it
I mean,
involves,
I'm sorry,
it involves
right.
empathy. Like
Absolutely.
you can only really hurt someone if you possess the power of empathy.
Mm-hmm.
Because empathy is a weapon. It can be a weapon. It's a massive strength, but I think the ability to empathize with people makes the knife sharper. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. But there's also something you've talked about in terms of like this representation of like being horny for sadness, as you said. Like, and I think that comes from this unique place of like, yeah, we grew up as queer, so we have these stories that we've been telling ourselves because the media's been telling us this stuff forever, right?
Everything. I mean, every movie, book, TV show. I mean, if you want to get like really technical about it, there was mandates. I mean, like, from 50s onward, like if you wanted to write a lesbian book, the publishers required that it was a pulp novel, so it would have to be sold at supermarkets. It wasn't considered an actual, a publicized, piece of literature. It was like a supermarket story that you'd buy at the counter. And also, the publishers required that the stories had to end in like death, suicide, or conversion. So these are mandates that existed governmentally, for us. And then we took that and ran with it. And then now we make things like Portrait of a Lady on Fire, or or Carol, or Blue is the Warmest Color. Like these sad stories. Or the one with Kate Winslet where Saoirse Ronan sits on her face. Does anybody? You know that one. You've seen it. I know you've seen it. Come on. It's a good one. But it's like, we kind of took that pain, that trauma that was originally governmentally mandated, and we turned it into our own stories and continue to do that. And it's kind of a joke, right? Like the sad lesbian movie, but it's real. And I think that our art in all departments reflects that pain and that trauma. So I would like, as an artist, to poke fun at it, and but also provide a white light at the end of the tunnel. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. So, in my opinion, I think one of the ways that you're able to kind of create something different out of this is through bazongas.
Oh, thank you for bringing it up.
I love the idea of it.
Kansas City bazongas?
I mean,
could you imagine?
I think we could get it done.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll be at Missy B's tonight.
Yeah.
We'll discuss further. So tell us what bazongas is. Tell us why you started doing that when you moved back to New York.
Yeah, when I moved back to New York, I was like going out to a bunch of like lesbian parties, and I was kind of like, ooh, it's very serious up in here. Like, it's very, very serious. Everybody's got a keychain. They're sizing each other up. It feels very masculine somehow and kind of like machismo. And I grew up with a lot of older queer people, like very, very fortunate to have had elders who raised me and taught me the power of dress up and silliness and playing with your friends, and feeling beautiful in armor, whether it's drag or just dressing up or makeup or whatever it is. And so when I took a job doing a TV show, and while I was in Germany, I was kind of sitting in my apartment being like, why do I hate these fucking parties? They're terrible. And I thought to myself, well, if you want to do something right, you got to do it yourself, right? So I'm just going to throw a party. It's called Bazongas. And it's going to be a queer but inclusive, lots of straight people there, don't worry. Always invite the straights. Queer inclusive dress-up party with themes. And it's gonna be all fun and mandatory dress up, and it's about laughter and silliness. And we threw the first one, it went great, and we just kept doing it. And we've had incredible themes. We've had some incredible performers come and perform at the Bazongas, because I like when it's more like Maria Imbravovic, like performance art vibes. And yeah, it's been awesome. It's been really fun to watch the silliness ensue and watch dykes feel silly. Like, that is awesome.
So
Am I allowed to say dyke on the radio?
it's fine.
Okay.
We're good.
Your donors are like, no. Cutting the funding.
So R.I.P. KP was the first single from the album. You did a slut funeral for that?
Yeah, we did a slut funeral. We got a coffin, or it's not a coffin, it's a casket. We got a casket, and I was in the casket for probably 4 hours on and off with a beer, kind of just it was so comfortable. Kind of laying, and then people would come up and pay their respects, and when I would say, hey, what's up? Hey, how you doing? It was great. It was really good.
Amazing.
Yeah, it was awesome. Everyone was in their funeral worst. It was great.
So last year you also did a Harry Potter themed birthday party?
Harry Pee-Pee, yeah.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, that was amazing. I was the Dark Lord Voldemort. But it was kind of a gender bending Voldemort situation. There was breasts, there was a coochie, there was an uncloaking, a decloaking. It was great.
Can you tell us about your birthday plans this year yet?
Ugh, bad news for me. Well, I begged my tour manager to make sure that I'm not in Germany for my birthday. I don't want that. No one wants that for me. Okay, so I don't know yet. Most of the time, I ask my friends to throw me a surprise party. And I suggest this to whoever's in this room right now, seriously. If you want a surprise party, just ask for it, and then will yourself to forget. Because then the people feel really pressured to do it, and they have to do it. You know what I mean? It's good. That's my advice to you.
I wish we had planned a party before this for you.
Yeah, that would have been cool.
Yeah.
I'll ask.
Sorry.
I'll ask next time.
You're going to have to come back, and then we'll do that for you. So once again, we're here with King Princess on the Bridge. I want to talk to you a little bit about touring. So you've always been kind of a studio rat. You grew up recording with pretty much whoever would come in the studio, right? So you love that process. You love the process of touring. It sounds like you wrote Girl Violence kind of with the audience in mind, because they're sort of the barometer. And you have a solid band. You've got, at least your rhythm section has been with you for a long time.
No, my band's awesome.
But so that gives you room for the songs to evolve. And now you're kind of at the midpoint of this tour, right? So has anything surprised you about crowd reactions to any of the new stuff?
Honestly, well, it's just been so long. It's been 2.5 years. So I think the biggest thing is just how grateful I feel. Every night just feels like a gift to be in front of people and to play this music and to have them respond to it. And nothing makes me happier than looking out and seeing people sing the words to the songs. That is just heaven, and it's what the songs are intended for, right? As far as the record itself, I feel like I was really happily surprised by how translatable it was to live, and that was the goal. And you always hope, this is gonna go great. This record is gonna be so amazing to play live. And then sometimes you get there and you're like, it's not. I did a bad job. And this time I feel like it's so easy to play these songs stripped back. It's so easy to play them with a full band. And the crowds are just incredible. I mean, I just really lucked out. I have really good fans that are so much fun, and they inspire me to be myself, and hopefully I do the same. And it feels like a fucking party every night.
That's amazing.
Even when it's a tiny little show and we didn't sell all the tickets, they still surprise you,
Yeah, and I think part of having that dedicated audience is the fact that, you found success with your first single. Yeah. and you kind of had to work backwards from there, right?
100% working backwards still to this day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like nobody like really like talks about like if you like if the first thing you did was successful, then what? Like if you try and you do succeed, then what? And I think for me it's like I just advanced so far from the first song and had no like foundation laid, and was like really out of control, and felt out of control. And like now I would say at 26 I feel a lot more grounded in my body and my ability to lead a show, and that I think that just came with like my frontal lobe forming, you know. Like, seriously, like I felt it form. And I feel like everything has gotten better.
Yeah. Well, and I think, you know, this album in itself feels like an achievement because it is your first kind of indie record, you know, outside of the majors, and you kind of have more of a stake in how it gets released, how it, you know, how you're able to perform it. Like, we're so lucky that you're able to come here and do a stripped down version of something that we're going to be able to see tonight kind of in a totally different way.
Yeah, I mean, like the thing about the indie labels is you're just like fed this like bill of lies as artists that the indies are broke and that they don't have resources, and that's just simply not true. A lot of them are independently wealthy, you know, and that's kind of where you want to be at. Like a team full of people who care about music, they're music nerds, they want to support you in your vision, they don't want to step on your vision because they know that the artist is what makes the, you know, makes the car move. And yeah, I don't know, this experience at an indie label has been amazing. I don't feel any less supported financially. Actually, I feel more supported financially because it's a partnership and I actually see royalties from my music for the first time in 10 years.
That's awesome.
So yeah, I don't know. I think it's pretty cool. I think I suggest that all artists check out what's on the other side, because usually there's a better option.
Well, I'm glad you found that option now.
Thank you.
So last thing before we go, you also took the time away from music to start devoting yourself to a different medium of acting. How was that? So you grew up in music, you know, I feel like it's something you took to pretty quickly. This is a completely different artistic medium. How did it feel to kind of be like a student again?
Well, don't get it twisted. I was always a theater nerd. I was always a theater girl. Can you tell? I love a laugh. But no, I felt amazing because I think that one of the things that's cool about being an artist is that you have the opportunity to be a student in a bunch of different departments. Like even as a musician, like learning about lighting or stage design or music video making, or it all feels like you have the opportunity to sit down in a class and watch people at work. And for me, the acting stuff is no different. Like I've just been so lucky that the casts I've worked with are so much better than me that I get basically a free Juilliard acting education every time I do a project. And everyone has been really gracious and kind and supportive. But I just love it. Like, it's so much fun. You learn so much about yourself when you're creating characters because you have to pull from not only yourself, but the people you know, your friends, your family, or people you've met on the street. Like, you have to really kind of become a anthropologist, which I think is really cool. And you end up taking something away that maybe is a lesson for yourself every single time. And I've so enjoyed it. Like, I just want to keep doing it if they'll have me.
Sounds like they will. So did that give you any perspective that you could bring back to your music?
Yeah, because if you're like doing like 50 takes of something and you're like using your body in this like clownery, then you have to kind of separate your ego, right? Because if the worst type of actor I feel like is an actor who's worried about looking bad on screen. Like that, you can just spot it. You see, you're like, oh yeah, they're worried that they don't look hot, you know. And like, I think that with acting and with music, it's, you know, when you're on stage, you get one take. You get one take of each song, basically. And with acting, you get a bunch of takes, but you're using your body at different ways in each one, and it's practice of how to use this flesh suit to make art. So I've taken a lot from that, and also I think just a general level of like not taking things too seriously or making them too precious, because it's just play, you know. The worst thing you could do is, you know, I don't know, like there's no worst thing. I mean, the sillier and more ridiculous you are, the better, right?
Absolutely. So I think that's going to do it for us today, but I really appreciate you coming in. Again, loved being able to hear the stripped down versions of these songs. So thank you so much for sharing Girl Violence with us. Thanks for coming today. King Princess will be at the Truman tonight with Spill Tab. There are still some tickets available.
Are you guys coming? No? What do you mean we'll see? You don't want to come after all this? You're not sold? Oh, he's sold. Okay, cool.
He's sold. There's still tickets available, so. Girl Violence is out now on Section 1. Thank you so much, King Princess.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Now available on 90.9 The Bridge YouTube.